Welcome to the Daily Cash Flow. This is our 100th episode. Crazy, right? And we thought the best possible way to celebrate would be to invite some of the most amazing minds in entrepreneurship, leadership, and business to join us for a roundtable discussion. So we're very excited to sit down with Lisa Rosenthal and Lindsay Ornstein. Lisa Rosenthal is the CEO and co-founder of Mayvin Inc. Founded in 2008, Mayvin supports U.S. national security and law enforcement by providing subject matter experts in an incredibly wide range of subjects that continues to grow and expand every day to the Department of Defense, Homeland Security, and Department of Justice. In less than 9 years, her team grew Mayvin from $1 million in annual revenue to over $50 million. Her firm has made the Inc. 5000 list of fastest growing firms 8 years in a row, an accomplishment less than 2% of companies achieve. Prior to starting Mayvin, she provided analytic and operations support to the Department of Energy, the intelligence community, and various Air Force and ballistic missile defense organizations. Lindsay Ornstein is the co-founder of Open Impact Real Estate. Lindsay has completed over 10 million square feet of transactions in her 20-year career, serving many of the country's leading education, financial services, corporate, and new economy organizations across multiple disciplines, including tenant advisory, agency leasing, portfolio strategy, branding, and consulting advisory work. Prior to launching Open, Lindsay was a partner in Transwestern's New York office, which she co-founded in 2011, and served on the firm's board of directors and executive committee. She began her career in real estate at the Staubach Company. And that's really only a fraction of what these leaders have accomplished. So let's get into the conversation.
Stop messing around, stop fooling around, stop delaying, stop procrastinating. Get up, get out, get it done. Everything is possible, nothing is a problem, and anything can be overcome. I just get my ass up out of bed, I get my shit together, and I get out and I start the fight. And that will transform you from a mere mortal into a superhuman being. I've never, ever, ever met anybody who told me that they got rich watching their IRA or their 401k.
Welcome to the Daily Cash Flow. Welcome, ladies. Welcome, Lindsay. Welcome, Lisa. And welcome back, Peter, as always. This is the 100th episode of the Daily Cash Flow.
100th episode, George. Thank you.
Applause in the background. And Peter, just to get into it, this is your episode, your 100th episode. Where do you want to start? What do you want to talk about today?
So, George, I just want to jump into it. Lisa and Lindsay are with us today. I'm really excited that they're here. They're killers in their field. Both are 9-figure entrepreneurs. They run companies. They run teams. They're problem solving. They're cutting big deals, and they're important. They're important in the respective fields. Lindsay up in New York City doing real estate development brokerage. Lisa down in DC, who's a prominent defense contractor in her space. But I got to tell you, one thing that's been bothering me the past couple of days, knowing that we were coming up to this episode here today and knowing that Lisa and Lindsay were joining us. You know, I had all these woman in business questions. Like, I thought that was the natural way this should go, but it bothered me. And the reason it bothered me is because if I was a something in business, I wouldn't want someone to ask me, well, Peter, you know, what advice do you have for other somethings like you in business? Like, it's in this crazy world, everything's divisive. Everything's got labels. Everything's, I don't know. So, Lindsay, let's start with you. Do you have any aversion to people referring to you as a woman in real estate in New York City? Or do you just want to be a person in real estate or a real estate executive or a leader in real estate?
It is one of my biggest pet peeves. It's a qualifier. When somebody says, Lindsay, as a woman leader or as a woman in whatever, I said, as opposed to what? You just cut half of my accomplishment, literally 50% of what I've done by qualifying it with as a woman first. So, you know, just as a leader, as a business person, as a whatever you would like to ask me the question in regards to, just don't pre-qualify it by saying as a woman. The same, by the way, goes to as a mom or how do you, my other big pet peeve question is, how do you do it at being a mom and being in business? Do you ask all the dads that? Because they got to do it too, you know, so please don't ask that question either. I don't mind you saying how do family people balance all of their schedules or all of the demands on their time, because that's an equal opportunity question to anybody who has a family. But when you singularly point it to a woman, it's a loaded question because it implies that the responsibility was mine to begin with, not ours. And I believe family and marriage and raising children is a shared responsibility. It is not singularly a woman's responsibility. So it really just totally changes the tonality of the question by prefacing it with as a woman or as a mother.
So you can't ignore the truth, though. You're in New York City. You're in real estate in New York City. It's a very competitive space. And I think historically, because I'm there too, there's not a lot of women at your level. So how do you respond to that?
Historically, there have not been. And I think that is a shift that is going to, you'll see change going forward, because the structure, the construct of the work environment and the construct of the home environment for the many decades leading up to now really didn't allow for a woman who was trying to have both equally, a family and a career, to thrive and flourish. And that's not the case anymore. And, you know, I always like to say I'll find a silver lining in anything. And the pandemic had a number of silver linings, as horrific as it was. And one of them is the opportunities for women. And that is because women are now not asking for special permission or treatment when they want a more flexible schedule. Everyone's getting more flexible schedules. That is a result of the pandemic and the shifted demands on time, and people recognizing that flexibility is a key way to kind of having it all. So that's a good thing for women going forward. And I think you'll see more and more women rising in the ranks, not just in commercial real estate, my field, but in many sectors of the economy.
Yeah, Lisa, how do you feel? Do you feel like this conversation needs to evolve more, and what would you like to see more of in the way people handle this kind of conversation?
I couldn't agree with you more. It's probably one of my biggest topics and biggest annoyances around it. The question, so what's it like to be a female CEO with all those men around in the military? It's like, well, I'm pretty sure it feels the exact same way it does for you as a guy. We still have the same pressures. We still have the same stresses. I've actually been booed off of quite a few stages over the years where it's, hey, what programs do you have set up to support women in technology? And my answer is, well, none. I have programs set up to support competence in technology, and whether you have an XX or an XY chromosome is irrelevant to me and what my hiring and promotion is. So I've turned down awards. I've turned down board memberships because I don't want to be, the token woman. No. I can compete equally with all of you, and it doesn't matter if I have ovaries or not. So I'm happy to play.
I mean, Lisa, I have to imagine, though, that in defense contracting and military services and businesses in your space, you can count the number of women CEOs and women-owned businesses on one hand. I don't know. Is that right? Because I've never met anyone like you. You're an absolute pit bull. And what's the relevance of this? I mean, you are not in a place that most of us are familiar with. I mean, you're on my speed dial because you're my extraction call if I ever get kidnapped. You're going to be the one to come save me, and I'm not kidding either.
I'm very lucky. So I've surrounded myself. I agree with you, Peter. I have surrounded myself with the best people in the industry, and I haven't cared if they're male or female. And that's what's made Mayvin and me personally so successful, is they haven't cared if I was a female, and I haven't cared if they were male, female, 25, 55, 75. It's, are you really good at what you do? And how do you behave and act? And one of the things I love to talk about with women is don't go into the place as subservient. Don't be the one that runs and goes and gets coffee just because you have it. Don't be the one that takes notes and says, just because I was sort of thinking. It's when the woman goes in as confident, they're going to be treated with respect more often than not. In the military, working with the military is probably one of the most progressive groups I've ever worked with. It is easier to work with most military, because they don't care what my gender is or what my background is. They care, what is it that you can do for me today? Are you able to support your part of the mission?
Lisa, I have a fun little game we can play. I have a fun little game we can play. I'll follow up to your question. This is for all of us. Yeah. George, you too. If you're at a boardroom table and you have a point you want to make and you want to raise your hand, go ahead. Everybody right now, go ahead and raise your hand. Lisa, how would you raise your hand? No, raise your hand. Put your hand up. A lot of women often do this, right? They make themselves smaller. Take up space. Put your shoulders back. Put your hand up. Have presence in a room. It's really important. Yeah, there you go, Peter. 2 hands up.
Yeah. Based on where the camera is, I'm not going to stand up right now, okay? If that's okay.
That would be a woman-specific comment right there.
Yeah.
Okay.
But Lindsay, last time you were on the podcast, you said you think people overcomplicate this notion of more women in the industry, and that you spoke about, hiring smart people from lateral industries and then going on to teach them the specific expertise of what you specialize in, which is real estate.
I did say that.
Yeah. What qualities do you look for? Like, what are the qualities that you look for in those candidates that set them apart, that makes you feel like, oh, this is a teachable person. They can become what we need them to be here?
I'm with Lisa with one slightly different twist in that I really do care and go out of my way to hire women and people with diversity, because I think it helps us serve our clients better. Diverse points of view make us a better partner, make us better at our jobs, because we can anticipate more, we can see other people's perspectives, we can come at it from different vantage points and different experiences. That has to start with, as Lisa was saying, excellence. Excellence is a starting point. If you're not hitting excellence, you're not even welcome to come into the room. And then after that, what else can you contribute that goes beyond the excellence? And excellence is in an intellect, excellence is in integrity, excellence is in communication and personalization skills. So that all contributes to excellence. That's the starting point. Then, again, if you are a woman or you're a person of color or you have an international lens, your religion, your race, your gender, your theatrical preferences versus your sports preferences, those are all different enriching points of view that can help you make connections with the people that we're serving. And we want all of those points of view. That's what makes us a holistic, solid company.
I can imagine. I mean, I know what it's like to work a deal and to compete for business in New York City. But Lisa, I have no idea. What's the process of you competing for business in military and defense contracting? I mean, I know the things important to you are like accountability and responsiveness and teamwork and integrity and your customer focus. When I think of the military and defense contracting, as little as I know about it, those things, I don't know how to connect to those things. Like, I would think it's relationship based and, hey, let's throw Lisa a couple of contracts and we'll spread them out over a few different, like, what's it like competing for business?
I wish it were like that. If it was relationship based, we'd be doing amazing. Actually, I can't complain. We're doing pretty well. We find out about things. Have you guys seen War Dogs? We're nothing like that. But everybody seems to think we are War Dogs, the movie. So no, yeah. We find out about events that are going on or contracts. Every single office in the government has contractor support to it. Almost every single office. I happen to specialize, and I have a very specific specialty where I support the national security and law enforcement communities, international law enforcement communities. So we know what's happening in those communities very well. We know when contracts are coming up for rebid. Usually they're on a 5-year cycle. We track them very closely. We get to know and understand the client, what their touch points are, what their pain points are, how is the incumbent doing, and then we compete, and it is a process. I actually have a proposal that's going to hit a 2-year birthday here soon.
Oh, wow.
That we submitted over 2 years ago. So it's very different than the commercial world.
Why does it take 2 years to get a green light or not with that?
If you would like to ask the government that, I would love that answer. So you start a capture. We call it capture. We start a capture usually about a year in advance to really learn everything about that client. And then we wait for the RFP to drop on SAM. It used to be called Fed Biz Ops. That's what people who watch War Dogs know. We wait for it to drop, and then we respond to the proposal. And sometimes there's 2 people who bid on it. Sometimes there's 40 people who bid on it. And the one that really understands and can perform best, the person who can write the best is the one that wins. And it's usually because they know of you, they've heard of you, you have a reputation. You can show that you have the right kinds of subject matter experts.
Lisa, there's 2 wars going on right now. There's all sorts of little side conflicts happening. For the common person watching out there, not even like a business-minded person, but like, where is all of this stuff headed? What is the stuff that regular people like myself don't know or realize? That if you could tell us some of the secrets.
Oh, yeah. Let me keep my journal. Mm-hmm. Yeah, let me give you all of the state secrets. I'm all over that. And then you can come visit me in prison, I'm sure. So where we are with that is there's a lot of worldwide events happening. And I get the honor of working with the most unsung heroes, quiet professionals in the entire world. What I wish everybody knew about what we did is the people that do it are thankless. There's 2 a.m. calls. It's, oh, shoot, I'm stuck in this country. Come and help me out. It's, what do we need to do next? Every single day, they're combating threats to our national security, whether it be law enforcement, internal or external. Our guys and women, our men and women that are out there doing this, whether they're contractors, they're military, or they're government, they're stopping so many bad things from happening inside and outside of our borders. And we'll never even hear about them. I don't even hear about them anymore. I used to be cool. I used to be in the loop. Now I'm an overpaid bureaucrat. I treat people very well. So I bring in those right kinds of people. But with the increase in threats against Americas, especially we keep looking at the near peer competitors and where are we leaning with the national security posture, it's scarier every day. We have to have better and better subject matter experts. I have some of the most amazing counter UAS guys in the world. Like, how do you stop a UAS attack? You can't just shoot it down with a gun, right? You can't use a missile to bring down a drone that's carrying, a small gun or an arm or a bomb. So you have to have the most cutting edge people who have ideas thinking way out of the box. One of our guys has been offered $500,000 by Hollywood to go support them. And he stays with us because the mission and he believes in America. So how do you get those people? And that's where it is. So what I'd love everybody to know is the folks that are supporting the contracting and military environment, they're doing a whole lot for a little other than national security.
Yeah.
And how do all of these countries that we hear about, and probably some that we don't, how are they on the playing board right now? Like, I want to know how to make decisions for the next year or two based on this stuff. And I want to know if the shipping lanes in the seas are going to be viable, or if the cost of shipping is going to continue to contribute to inflation, or if Taiwan gets attacked, God forbid. Like, what's that going to do? So, like, what can we all extrapolate from the current events today and make business decisions based on what's happening?
I don't think we can, honestly. I mean, we have no idea what the next step is. We don't know what the next threat is. I mean, I wasn't expecting the Gaza attack, right? I don't think anybody was, or I'm at least not read into it. And if I was, I'd probably be in a whole lot of trouble if I talked about this in a pretty public podcast, but I wasn't. So, I mean, the answer is I can't tell you. I don't know. We just keep trying to be at the cutting edge, ready to take on whatever the threat is next. It's not conventional warfare anymore. It's cyber warfare. It's electronic warfare. We have to fight it on every mode of warfare there is, right? We have to combat the enemy. So you have to have your security. Comm security is probably the most important thing we do. If I were to tell anybody anything, get your security protocols in place to protect your data. That's where everybody's coming after, us and you.
Warfare. Lindsay, real estate in New York is sort of like warfare. What's the landscape like in New York right now? We know that the office buildings are tanking in value. We're still fighting it out with coming back to work, not coming back to work. Companies are demanding 5 days a week in the office, but the employees are fed up. Where is this all headed in New York and other cities?
We are, I think, coming onto the other side of the worst of it. So I'm much more optimistic in 2024 than I was in 2023 for a few reasons. One, capital markets have been frozen solid, much to Peter, you and my chagrin over the last year, and to so many others. It was an absolutely brutal climate to try and raise debt and deploy capital. It's just awful. But that seems to be thawing a little bit. We need interest rates to come down, which indicators say that should happen hopefully sooner rather than later, though not right at this moment. So that gives me optimism. The back to work thing is, flex, as I mentioned earlier, flex work is here to stay, and that's a good thing. We want flexibility to be able to create the right balance and holistic nature of living our lives more integrated than purely work and our personal lives. So that's a good thing. The Friday in the office, I don't think we're ever going to see a full-scale attendance of Fridays in the office again. I think that Friday will be a very flex day for probably the rest of my lifetime.
Yeah.
And Mondays I think will come back. Mondays are still a bit in play right now. People are trying to still eke out the Mondays at home. I think we're going to lose Mondays, which again, I think is a good thing. And I am a huge proponent of back to work and being in the office. And there are companies that I can tell you unequivocally are feeling the ramifications of being remote for many years now. And those are companies who said at the beginning of the pandemic, during the pandemic, and even coming out of the pandemic, hey, we're doing fine. Our team is great. We're solid. We've got this. We don't need to come back to the office. And what they didn't realize, but we did, was that they were just eating away at I always call it their cultural capital. They were spending down that capital and not replenishing it on the other side. And that may work for your veteran employees who've been there for 20 plus years. That does not work for new employees. That does not work for recently graduated kids who want to create connections and have mentorship and have shared experiences in the office environment, right? Those accidental, hey, come in here, join me for this meeting, or, ooh, I just heard about so-and-so. Did you hear about that? That doesn't happen anecdotally, remotely. So those companies are really struggling now to reinstill the culture that they had maybe had for years and years before that. So I do think back to work is vital for both cultural unity and strength within an organization, but more importantly, or equally importantly, for mentorship and for teaching the next generation on what they need to know to be best at their career and to share information and knowledge.
Sounds like the kicking and screaming of the work-life balance crowd. They finally won.
They didn't win. I wouldn't say there's winners and losers here. I'd say that there are positive outcomes for both sides.
Yeah.
Right? There are benefits for being in the office, but there are distinct benefits for being remote, and neither one in its purity is the right answer. There has to be an integration of the two, and it's not the same for every person or the same job, right? There are certain jobs that it really doesn't make that big of a difference if you're in the office or you're home. And there are some jobs that it makes all the difference in the world. So you can't have a one blanket answer for everybody. And that, I think, is the other problem that a lot of leaders had over the last few years, is trying to make a one-size-fits-all approach to back to work when jobs and personalities are not one-size-fits-all.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you about that, Lindsay, because you said in our last conversation that, coming back to the office had to be 1 + 1 = 3, and that in your experience, you wanted the office to be somewhere someone was either learning or teaching, no matter what. As a leader, how do you implement that kind of culture? Is there policies that you put in formally? Is it an informal situation where you just conversations that you have with leadership? Like, what does that look like in practice for you?
I don't like creating policies and mandates in our office. At Open, we'd rather create ways of behaving so that it becomes self-sustaining and self-fulfilling to operate in the way that we think is best. What I mean by that is we set examples and we show people behavior for them to then mirror. So we're constantly asking questions, being vulnerable, showing them when we make mistakes so that they know it's okay to make mistakes, asking questions even if we know the answer, so they know it's okay to ask questions. When you create an environment where it gives people comfort and the ability to engage, be vulnerable, get out of their comfort zone, you'll see that they tend to trust each other more, interact with each other more, rely on each other more. And then, we don't have to do all that hands-on work. It just happens organically and naturally.
Right.
So we create a policy where people come into the office every day, except Friday is optional, unless they have a reason not to. The whole idea of I don't feel good, I'm just going to suck it up and go to work. Please don't. Please don't get our whole office sick. Work from home that day.
Right.
That's encouraged you to work from home.
As long as it was the employee's decision not to come in and not the employee's mother or father. Did I ever tell you this story where we get a call we had a new employee, and the employee calls like the second week one day. I was talking to my mom and she felt like I shouldn't come in today, so I'm not going to come in today. I'm like, wait, what? You're talking to your mom? Who's your mom? Do I know your mom? Is she part of this company? Like, what does she have to do with the price of tea in China?
I think that's something, by the way, we as parents with kids that are going to be entering the workforce in the coming years, it's on us to teach them boundaries and not to bring their parents into conversations, because I've heard it very often. Please. From lots of people I know who have employees who talk that my parents say I shouldn't come in today, or I don't think it's safe today for me to be in, or my mom said so. I'm with you on that one, Peter. But that's also on us as parents to teach them that.
Lisa, give me one or two things that you're worried about or that bother you, and what are you doing about it?
Quality of the labor force. Number one is getting the right people into the right position. Like you just mentioned, work from home. We're not a work from home office. We haven't changed. We actually did 100% in person throughout COVID. We actually didn't lose anybody either, which is interesting. We also didn't have anybody with COVID the entire first year. We were in the office every day. But the number one thing that I think keeps almost every business owner up in our world is finding the right quality person to come in that's naturally motivated. The only three things I look for in a person in my corporate office, client site, they have to be a very specific thing with specific degrees, specific experience. But in my corporate office, I want them to have personality. I want them to have drive and motivation. And I want them to have basic technical skills, and I can teach the technical skills. I can't teach personality, and I can't teach drive, and I can't teach ethics. So finding all three of those, if somebody's working from home, I expect them to put in the 8-hour day. When people work from home on Fridays, I not popularly refer to it as time card fraud Friday. Right? It's just where you're not doing what you need to be doing all the time. But it's finding those right people. And we're looking even more now for the right low density, highly skilled workforce. It's very hard to find some of what we're looking for. It's the cutting edge. Who's out there that's the game changer that has the next idea? So the availability of workforce, where are they going to be? Reasonable expectations about what they will do and what they'll bring, and if they'll come into an office. I don't care how brilliant you are, but if you're in Montana, I can't fly you in for meetings every time.
Right. Yeah.
It doesn't matter how good you are. I need you here. I need you teaching and training and coaching and mentoring all of the ones I have here that are 25 that are looking up to you. You don't get to meet them and know them well.
Yeah.
So that environment, the ever-changing national security position, I'm terrified of cyber attacks every day. We're always terrified of what's going to happen. What is the next battle? And I really do believe it's all going to be cyber-based.
Yeah. In talking about cybersecurity or just security in general, like Mayvin recently announced the body-worn camera analysis division. And in the statement, you said that it was to comply with Executive Order 14074. And it made me think, like, how do you stay on top of that when there's ever-changing policy, ever-changing administrations, ever-changing politics? How do you navigate when politics is changing, but you have to stay the same? You have to be present at all times.
Yeah. Wow. You actually read that and remember the executive order? That was impressive.
I'm trying to do my work.
I haven't slept in 14 years. That's really the answer. No television, no social media. I know it's a little weird, but between those two, I'm able to actually keep on top. But
that was obvious when we started this podcast.
I'm sorry. I'm completely not cool, and I'm very comfortable with it. So I don't have a television, I don't have social media, and I don't have a coffee pot. So go ahead and judge. We can move on from there. It's hard to keep up on top of everything, and administrations change. And here's the great thing. I think there was a line in a movie, I serve at the pleasure of the president. Yep. I serve at the pleasure of the administration and the contracting officer. So everything is based on those. I choose not to have political opinions because it's going to piss somebody off in one of my client sites, and I'd like to be right there in the middle. I have some very strong opinions, but they're not relevant for work, and I can't use them. I choose not to operate the business with left or right sways. I think everybody gets their right to their own decisions, and mine don't matter, except for providing an environment where everybody can thrive. Whether you're an extreme left or an extreme right, don't bring it into my office, please.
Wow, that's an incredibly rare viewpoint nowadays, which I appreciate that.
But it's interesting to see how it is. And you implement policies that allow people to make their own decisions for themselves. Right? Yeah. And that was it. Right? I provide access to anything you possibly want. I provide training and education, $5,000 per person budgets per year. Grow and develop into anything you want. Have whatever opinions you want. It's up to you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Lisa, you got your first contract in this industry when you were 19. What was that like, and how has the game changed now?
So 19. I was at American University, and my statistics professor hired me. So at 19, I started working congressional issues for the Ballistic Missile Defense Organization.
Wow.
Yeah, right. I know. I was the luckiest girl on the planet, and I had no idea what I was even getting myself into. But the moment I met a U.S. military person, I was like, this is what I'm meant to do. And it was amazing.
You built your business from your statistics professor having hired you.
Yep.
You had no background or experience or exposure to this industry whatsoever.
Nope. He called me in after class one day, and I thought he was kicking me out because I was on scholarship, and I cried. I was like, no, I'm so sorry. What am I doing wrong? And he had said, it's kind of funny looking back on it. He said, you have an attitude problem. You skip most of my classes, and quite frankly, your outfits are a little bit on the slutty side. I was 19. I could get away with it. A lot different at almost 50. And I was like, I'm so sorry. I promise I won't skip class. And he's like, no, I'm going to hire you, but you're going to call your mother and get a wardrobe that covers your midriff. And I started a week later as a congressional support for a major defense contractor, and the rest is history. Now, I promise you, at almost 50, I'm not showing my belly button to anybody. But
I promise you still have an attitude problem.
I promise you are correct.
Wait, I'm not the interviewer here, but I have a question.
Yeah.
What do you, just as a chance for you to own your awesome, but what do you think it was about you that your professor saw that he wanted you in that job?
I will never be the smartest person in any room, and I'm in the wrong room if I'm the smartest person. I will almost always be the hardest working person in the room. And he knew it.
Yeah.
And I will never back down for a hard problem. I can go weeks without sleep if I have to. So people will outsmart me all day long. They'll never outwork me.
Yeah.
And I'm loyal to them. I have the most loyal staff and team around, and I'm loyal right back to them.
Yeah.
So it goes both ways.
That's amazing.
That's great. We've heard that before, and we've said that before.
Absolutely.
Loyalty, no one can outwork you, that kind of thing. It's great.
Lindsay, is this correct that your father is the president of the Ballistic company?
That is correct.
I want to make sure I did my research. Coming from that background, what led you to real estate and entrepreneurship in the way that, what was that journey like growing up around that and then coming into Transwestern and Open Impact and what you've done now?
Entrepreneurship is in my blood. It's in my father's blood. He created the small family-owned business that was his father-in-law's, the Ballistic company, with his brother-in-law. The two of them bootstrapped it and built what is now, going on soon in the hopefully not too long future to be a fourth generation business, but third generation family business now. And my brother and my cousins have subsequently taken over the business and just continued to grow it through their entrepreneurial savvy and creativity and loyalty, Lisa, to your excellent point, to each other. Family business has a different dynamic to it. So I saw all of that growing up, and it was never even a consideration to me to do anything but entrepreneurship. I ultimately had other aspirations. I originally wanted to be in advertising. It's how I started my career. It's what I studied in college to support a career in advertising. But ultimately, I knew whatever I did, I wanted to have my own company doing it.
Yeah.
So I just started my first real entrepreneurial stint in commercial real estate was co-founding the Northeast region of Transwestern with my then partner, Pat Robinson, whom I love and adore.
Yeah.
And subsequently now I launched Open Impact Real Estate with my partner, Stephen Powers, as a certified women-owned real estate brokerage and advisory firm. And it's, each step along my journey has prepared me for the next one.
Yeah.
And, I layer in other aspects of real estate into my practice to just give me more perspective, because I'm a huge proponent of 360-degree points of view on anything you do in your career and in your life. So my business with Peter, in our development business, and understanding that aspect of real estate and the debt and the financing side of it really gives me another lens through which to view the commercial real estate leasing and brokerage world that I'm in. So all of these pieces put together, and it started with my dad, and that also was sales. Did I ever tell you the story about the stapler?
I don't think so.
All right. So when I was a little girl, little, I think I was like home from school. It was an elementary school.
Yeah.
I don't know why I was in my dad's office, but I was. And this was pre-cell phones. So he had a big box phone on his desk. He had a phone on the wall, and he had a cordless phone so he could take it when he was walking around the office within a distance. And he would be on all three at once. He'd have one in each ear and one on speakerphone, and he'd flip. I don't know how he did it, and we talked to one, but he had this whole art form mastered. But I would wait patiently until I had a question for him, and he finally came up for air, and we started talking, and he was explaining about how he was selling, something about what the sales process was. And he was trying to get it clear to me, and he said, "You know what?" And he reaches across his desk and he pushes his stapler to me, and he says, "I'll show you how to sell. You tell me, why should I buy this stapler? Tell me about this stapler." And I had to give him one attribute, and it was never enough. And he's like, "No, I'm not going to buy it." And I had to keep going. "No, I'm still not going to buy it." And I would talk about the swing mechanism and the way the staples don't jam and the color and that it won't chip. I came up with whatever I could that was factual about that stapler. Yeah. To sell him, and it just got me into that mood of, I like this. I like the idea of trying to, find something's best parts of itself and make you believe it too.
Yeah.
And it's a foundational part of the business I do. I love to sell.
You fell for the old trick. Sell me this pen.
Sell me this pen. Well, for me, it was a stapler.
You mentioned the foundational aspect that you just posted. I think Open Impact posted on Monday. Finding a way to connect with people is the most important foundational aspect of being a leader. And I was wondering, are there some effective ways, and this is really for both of you ladies, what are some effective ways that you've found to form connections between you and those that you're seeking to inspire and those that you're seeking to lead?
For me, it's being real. It's being vulnerable. It's bringing people into my life and letting them know that I have a life and you should too. And if I let you see it's okay, I tell every employee, don't miss your kids' ball games or music performances or recitals. Don't miss your doctor's appointments. Don't not go to the gym. Take care of yourself mentally, physically, emotionally, and be present in all the parts of your life you can. You have to get your work done. Yeah. You still have to get your work done, but I don't care if it's done between 9 and 5, as long as it gets done on time to its best ability. You get it done when you have to, and you be part of your life. So I model that example. I model that behavior for them so they can see I do it too. And I let them know I never make an excuse. If I'm out of the office, I never, ever make an excuse. I'm sorry I have an appointment at my kid's school, or I'm sorry I'm going to the doctor. I tell them what I'm doing because I want to give them permission to do that too and to be honest with us. Because I would much rather know that you're not going to be in work tomorrow because you're going to the dentist than for you to make up a nonsense excuse and then I try to reach out to you or you pretend you're not there and I call you because I need your help on something and suddenly you thought you can get away with it. Like that's 10 times worse for me. So totally. I want open, honest, collaborative communication and I want to model the behavior I want to see back.
Yeah, Lisa, what about you? Does that resonate with you? Do you have some
Lisa doesn't do that. She just said that she can go weeks without sleeping.
Yeah, I'm going to the Bahamas with 5 girlfriends next week. So I would agree with you. I think the 2 most important attributes of a leader, especially when you really want to be a leader, not just the manager of a bunch of people, is authenticity as well as consistency. So I don't think one is necessarily more important. Nobody should ever be surprised by a policy or a mood or anything else. They should know almost exactly every single time what to expect. So I'm very consistent in my responses. You can almost always predict what will be coming, usually, right? But the authenticity piece, every week for the firm, I send out 5 things you need to know. And it turns out a lot of my personality oozes out in it. And it gives people permission. I spend it's 5 things, and it's just 5 things you need to know, whether it's about benefits, things that are upcoming, conferences they need to be at, major shifts in policy. 5 quick things every single day. I love smart brevity. It's just major stuff. And in it, my personality comes out. And you're right, Lindsay, I'm the same. I talk about, it's like, yep, time for my mammogram. Don't forget to do yours. By the way, I believe in everybody's right to do this. So Mayvin, we pay for all 3D mammograms in the company because insurance hasn't necessarily caught up. It's the only place where I do believe there's a major discrepancy left between men and women. It's in healthcare, is how women's benefits compare to men. So I pay the difference for women in 3D mammograms. But I talk about it openly with the company. And those who meet me, they're like, every time I read one of them, I can hear your voice in it. It's a little weird. But there is that authenticity, but it's the communication. And for us, we have about 500 people in 35 states right now. How do you touch base with all of them? How do you communicate, especially when a lot of them are working from home? It's a struggle that we have every day. So that authenticity and letting them know, yes, I'm a real person. Last week, I wrote about the importance of getting colonoscopies in my five things you need to know. It gets a little awkward, but it's also, hey guys, you have to take the time to take care of yourself.
Yeah.
I holler at them about not taking enough leave. I take leave. It's the only thing that makes me sane.
Lisa, I appreciate that so much. When I launched Open Impact Real Estate and we were picking our benefits provider, one of the criteria that we ended up choosing our provider with was that they included for our employees reproductive health treatments. So fertility treatments are included, and we tell our employees that's one of the first things we say. May you never need it, but if you do, it's here and it's covered.
Did you say 500 people in 35 states? Because that sounds terrifying to me.
It's exhausting. I saw almost every one of them in December.
Yeah, I heard about this. You fly around the holidays to try and basically like handshake, give a hug to everyone at the holidays, right? That's wild.
I personally hand out almost every single bonus check in the firm.
Yeah.
I sit down and say thank you to everybody. So my business partner, he's amazing. My business partner and I, sometimes we split ops, but we usually travel together. And we go and have Christmas parties. I gained, I think, 8 pounds in December, all of them. I still can't fit into my jeans right now. It's a little uncomfortable. That's why I'm wearing a lot of dresses at the moment. But we did 14 different Christmas parties and holiday parties, or whatever you want to call it, throughout the month of December.
Yeah,
And it was insane. But to be able to say thank you to the people that are out there doing it, and to hear what they want and to hear what they have to say, it was an amazing experience.
Yeah.
And gratitude goes in that same category. With gratitude, say it often and say it loud. Don't wait for a mid-year review to tell somebody a job well done or something you like about it. Say it in the moment. Recognize great work when you see it. Recognize good behavior when you see it. Say thank you when somebody goes out of their way for you. Just express it. It means so much more in the moment than it does at a mid-year review or year-end review.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's simple, too. It is a simple answer, being a decent person. I think you can scrap pretty much every HR manual in the world and every leadership manual, and you can bring it down to the Harvard Business Review concept, right? Don't be an asshole. It's that policy.
Yeah.
Life is simple.
Lindsay, last time we spoke, you mentioned that you were trying to block out your lunch hour, like 12:30 to 2, for just like relational work, network work. Did you stay with that throughout the last year? What did that look like? How did that play out?
Pretty good. It is blocked in my calendar every day, 12:30 to 2. It's blocked so that I can have lunch meetings. And, if day of or right before somebody's like, it's the only time that's available, do you mind taking a meeting? Then I'll fill the time.
Totally.
I'm not gonna squander it, but people know to ask and they don't just book over my lunches, and I'm appreciative of it, and it works. I have lunches every week, and it's really important to, again, connectivity is everything in my business. Relationships are everything in my business. So I try to take as many lunches as I can.
Yeah. Yeah. As we were speaking about relationships, that popped in my head, and I was like, oh yeah, it's such a, I mean, Peter and I bring it up almost every podcast. It's like everything comes down to relationship. It's relationship. And it's real. That's a real thing.
Is New York still the 2 martini lunch? What are you guys doing up there now?
Oh, that would be not going back to work then. Yeah, not for me. I'm sure there are plenty who do, but sadly, that doesn't work for me.
I don't eat lunch. Like, who has time for lunch, I feel?
I ate lunch just before this, so maybe.
I think you guys know I've got lots of business mantras and life mantras. One of my favorites is maximize your minutes. So when I'm not taking a lunch meeting, I'm going to use every one of those minutes. So I tend to skew towards smoothies for lunch because I could just sit there and drink it and still have my hands free to type and work.
Yeah.
So I'm a big, add some protein powder, lots of healthy things, green, and drink your lunch.
Yeah, I love that. My wife is similar to that. Yeah. Yeah, this isn't a mantra necessarily, but I was reading Mayvin's website, Lisa, that version of yes came up in your guiding principles, that you'll find a version of yes to support a client's needs. Can you talk a little bit about what a version of yes means and why it's important framing?
Yeah, I think you can always, when somebody says, I need this, if it seems like it's hard, the easy answer is no, or if it's against policy or regulation, you can always find something that makes sense. It's the old business concept, right? Getting to yes.
Yeah.
You can almost always find something that's in the middle.
Yeah.
To make everybody happy, right? And I still struggle with you can't please all the people all the time, because I still want to make everybody happy all of the time, but I can't. And there's a military phrase that I really love that this is about, and it's mission first, people always. And that's what it comes down to, is how do you get to the yes to take care of the mission and the person? The person's not always going to be extremely happy, but we can probably find a way to make it palatable. Every time somebody in the company does something egregious or really bad, I'll frequently send them, not every time, I'll send them a note and say, hey, why don't we come meet for lunch and talk about it? They're like, I'm not talking to you about it. I was like, no, I'll fly out to you. It's okay. I'll take you out to lunch. We'll get through it. One person in the years have said yes to that.
Wow.
Right? Because they don't actually want to talk about it. I'm like, no, let's figure it out. I'll sit down with you and work through it. Well, I live in Chicago. You can't be here. I was like, planes fly all the time. Let me know when.
Yeah.
And so there's that, right? Sit down, work it out, find a way that both people will not necessarily be happy, but not mad.
Right.
So,
yeah,
and
totally.
we do that with our clients, whatever it is. And if they're asking for something, we're going to find a way to get it done.
Yeah.
You can't find a way to get it done, you shouldn't be in business.
Bingo. Yeah. That seems hard. Not impossible. Let's go.
That's so similar to, another ethos that we have. Don't come to me with a problem. unless you're going to come to me with a solution to that problem.
Exactly.
I have a really hard time when we work with other project member teams all the time on projects. Say, I noticed something. There's a problem here. Like they think they're going to get brownie points for, I call it throwing a red flag. Like if you're going to throw a red flag, tell me how you're going to pick that flag up, fix it, and now not throw it again. Because I'm not giving you credit for spotting a problem. I'll give you credit for solving the problem.
Yep. We call it the monkeys. Don't give me those monkeys. So it's really, I make everybody on their first day of work read the article. It's Don't Give Me Your Monkeys.
Yeah.
I can't remember the exact title, but I'm not taking those.
We'll put it in the show notes.
Give me solutions.
Yeah.
Give me solutions. Problems happen, and I want you to point out the problems, but take a breath before you quickly point out the problem so you could think it through, understand here are 3 different paths to resolving that problem, and here's how I recommend we move forward.
Yeah. Where did you kind of develop that mindset, Lindsay? Was that something inherent in just your DNA, or was that something that you were taught in experience or from someone specifically?
I'm innately a problem solver. I like, when people come to me, I'm a fixer. I want to fix it.
Yeah.
I'm not... If you want somebody who's just going to sit and listen and just be a sponge, I'm probably not the best person. I'm not a terrible listener. I'm a good listener. It's hard for me not to then say, and did you try doing this? Or have you thought about that? Or can we do this? And with my kids, it's actually different. I do have to just be a sponge because for teenagers, they need to just get it out. It's poison inside of them. And I'll ask them if they want my opinion. And that's taken me time to get to that point to say, do you want to know what I think you should do? Or do you want me to, you want to hear some thoughts on how you might want to handle that?
Right.
And sometimes they'll say yes. And sometimes they'll say, no, can you just let me finish telling my story and let me get it out. So I think it's important to understand, but I'm a fixer, I think, by nature, and specifically understanding the sequence of how that red flag effect that was on the ground, or I'll stay with the sports metaphor.
Yeah.
That was on the field experience of seeing people do that, seeing clients get frustrated and flustered, and then watching things unravel because a problem was thrown out. And problems are negative, right? Negative things have heavy density that pull things down and weight them down. And you need solutions which have light buoyancy to bring them back up, to stay in equilibrium. So if you're going to be weighing things down without bringing them back up, you might have a solution a week or 2 from now, but that's too late.
Right.
And that's too late. The damage is done because people tend to, once they catch a negative thread, they pull it.
So, George, I found out this week that we have a fan and a follower in the Canadian military, and Lisa's here. So I want to ask Lisa, tell me about the Canadian military. I have a friend there, so I know I can rely on them.
Yeah, I know all of them. Every one of them. I know all of them.
Every Friday you get beers.
Yes, me and the entire Canadian military. I do work with NATO. We primarily work with the U.S. military. 99% of our work supports U.S. military, Department of Defense, and the Departments of Homeland Security for border protection, as well as the United States Department of Justice. In terms of foreign military or international military, the extent of what we do is we provide training solutions. We don't provide the training. We provide training solutions to what we call NATO SOF and NATO adjacent. So if there's a country in NATO, their special operations forces, if they need a specialized or unique training, we provide that, which is a pretty unique feature that we have. But I can't tell you that we work directly with the Canadians yet.
Yeah.
Well, God bless them.
Yet. They're very nice, though.
Oh, yeah. So nice. The nicest.
So nice.
Yeah.
And they're fans of our show.
Yeah. Yeah. That's what makes them so nice. For both of you, as you've become more successful over time and things have grown and responsibilities have shifted, I would imagine it would be challenging to, once you get to a certain tier, say, oh, this is a responsibility that I once had, and now we've grown so much, I need to now delegate that or shift or pivot. I'll start with Lindsay. How have you dealt with that kind of experience, and what are the markers that you say, oh, I need to now shift gears and change, and how has that process, played out for you?
Delegating is an acquired skill. I don't think it, at least for me, it did not come easily. I go super fast. I charge very hard. I do everything 1,000 miles per hour to my fullest ability. So anything that I think might slow me down is hard for me to relinquish. It's just faster for me to do it myself. I'll just do it. And that's not healthy, and that's not good. That's not how you grow a business. That's not how you protect your sanity and your physical and mental health. So I've had to learn and teach myself, and I did it in small steps. I did it in things that were easier for me to let go of and pass on, or things I didn't love doing myself. Like those were the easiest places for me to start.
Totally.
And then I would slowly start to see and build trust with team members who did it the way I would want, or better a lot of times. Like, surround yourself with people who are better than you. So great, you did it even better than I would. Now I know I really let this one go. So, it took me time, but delegation is the only way to scale.
Yeah.
And figuring out where you're adding the most value is where you have to spend your most time.
Yeah, Lisa, how has that process played out for you?
It's awful. I just want to do everything myself. It's quicker and easier, but there's only 24 hours in the day, and I need sleep because sleep is the greatest superpower on the planet.
Amen.
Perfect is the enemy of good enough, right? And I still have it where every email that goes out to the entire corporation goes through my inbox because I just don't trust it, right? I'm still a little tightly wound with all of this. Like, no, that's my name on it. It should be perfect. 5:30 this morning, I was up and I was editing a paper for body-worn cameras, right?
Yeah.
Now, I should trust the team, and I do trust them for a lot, but trust comes after a while of demonstrated competence. And surrounding yourselves with the right people is only, I think, half of the equation. Actually, I think it's only 25% of the equation. Listening to and trusting them is the vast majority of it. And I've got years of a relationship with most of my senior staff, and I trust them implicitly, and that helps. But new people coming in, I'm like, no, let me just do it. And I'm like, no, I'm better than this. They can do it, and they will do it better than I can because they'll have the time. So I struggle as well because entrepreneurs, we've had every job in our company.
Yeah.
Right? We're like, no, we've got this. And we have this vision of how we want it done. And just because it's the way I would do it doesn't mean it's the right way to do it or the only way to do it. I have an executive coach. She talks me through that somewhat regularly.
Yeah.
It's like professional therapy. Do you really, really care about that? If that comma wasn't there, it's going to be okay. You're not going to win or lose.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, I have adapted myself. I said speed is important to me. I always like to tell our employees, I still want A's, but an A does not mean 100. Like, I'd rather you make a few mistakes and keep things moving quickly than try to get it exactly perfect and sacrifice the time that will more likely kill the deal than that dot on top of the I.
Yeah.
You aren't always like that.
I was not always like that. This is an evolution for me.
Yeah.
A long time to shed my perfectionism.
When I first met Lindsay, everything was perfect. It's got to be perfect. And I'm like, oh my God, this woman is a pain in the ass.
Pain in the
Perfection, obsession, and like, what do you do with
My
this?
spices are literally alphabetized. It gives me massive anxiety when it's off. And my nephew stays with me every now and then. I'm like, can you not read the alphabet? It's the same over and over.
Peter, you were going to mention Lisa's coach, I think, right?
I'm impressed with you, Lisa, that you have a coach. That's something that not many people do and engage with. How did you find this coach? Describe the person, some of their qualities and traits. I personally feel that anybody who I'm seeking advice from has to be higher up on the ladder than me or better than me. Or how do you approach coaching? Because I think it's something that everyone should tackle.
I love having a coach. Mine is Carrie Ann. She is amazing. She's feisty. She's irreverent. She calls me on my bullshit, which is probably the number one thing because your staff frequently won't call you on it. And I'll give her my strategy about what's bothering me. And she's like, why do you care? That's beneath you. And she'll call me on it, which is amazing. And she'll just tell me I'm wrong, which is lovely to hear sometimes. I'll tell you, good coaches are not cheap. It is the best investment I will ever make. So I've always kept a coach. And it's
Is this person a business person or are they like a character behavioral person?
No, she's business. She's former business owner. She sold out and she moved into executive coaching, got all her certifications. I'm happy to send you her link. I do it a little bit differently. I think she meets most people in their offices. I grab a bottle of wine and say, let's talk so we can both be open.
I like that.
And it works for us. It's just how it works for us where I can get out everything that's bothering me or some struggles with the relationship that I'm having at work. And just saying it out loud in a non-judgmental place. Well, there is a lot of judgment, but saying it in a safe place where she can call me on it and there's no implications. And it makes me think. I don't do everything she tells me or recommends, but it gives me enough. And I can also put her with different employees if they're having an issue, and she'll help talk them through it. So I think she's a lot of the Mayvin professional executive coach. So it's an executive.
How long have you had this person in your life?
I've had an executive coach for probably the last 7 or 8 years. I swapped out about 2 years ago to Carrie Ann because I wanted somebody that was more in line with my ideals and integrity and where I wanted to go as a human being and as an executive.
I'd like to introduce you to my daughter, Abigail. She just had her 9th birthday 2 days ago.
No, there's no way.
Abigail, how's the Girl Scout cookies going?
Good. I'm at 350 boxes, I think.
Fantastic. I love that.
We have to make some more cookie videos, George.
I'm down.
There was one I wanted to do, but he didn't do. It was sort of weird.
It was vetoed.
He was filming it, but it was me asleep, and then he said my name, and I was like, "What is it?" Oh my God, I'm so sorry. I was so tired from buying Girl Scout cookies, and I wanted to do that one, but it was bad because he was filming it.
I love how Abigail really comes up with all this original content. She's already creating more content than we're creating every day. It's fantastic.
She is. She's very good in the camera and she's comfortable. You're pretty good at marketing. You can you can share an apartment with your cousin Jake in Washington, D.C. and you could work with Lisa.
I want to stay here with my friends.
Okay. For now, that's an acceptable answer.
Yeah.
Mommy got more honey bells.
I know. I had a few. All right,
A few.
Okay, all right. Thank you for coming to visit me.
Had this many.
Yeah.
See you later.
See you later. Sorry about that.
No, you're good. That's fantastic.
I know you can hear me on that note.
So I have one last question that maybe we won't even use, but I will kick myself if I don't ask. Lisa, the Mayvin logo's this West African symbol, a dinkra. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly. How did you decide on that? Where did that come across your radar?
Well, the name of the company is Mayvin,
right.
And the word Mayvin is from the tipping point, but in the tipping point it was spelled Maven. And they said there's 3 types of people. There's the salesman, there's the connector, which is actually what I am, but connector is a crappy name for a company. There's also a Maven, which is a subject matter expert.
Got it. Yeah.
And so the whole company is branded around the concept of knowledge. And when I was looking around for really great what symbolizes knowledge, this was the logo. And you can see I'm actually wearing it around my neck right now as a necklace. And all the women at 1 year with Mayvin, they get that, or fleece, whatever they want with the logo on it. But it's all branded around the whole concept of knowledge.
That's really cool.
Everything is. And it's a little bit funnier is actually the word Mayvin. I told my 101-year-old Jewish grandmother before she passed, I'm like, Grandma, I started a company and I named it Mayvin. And she says, I don't like you being a professional lady. I'm like, Grandma, I'm not a prostitute. I'm a businesswoman. She says, no, honey. I was like, but Grandma, the name of the company is Mayvin. It's a Jewish word, and it means an intense gather of information and or impressions, blah, blah, blah. And she's like, no, sweetie. It's a Jewish know-it-all. It's perfect for you.
Oh, yes. Jewish know-it-all.
That's fantastic. Well, thank you so much for taking this time. This is really amazing.
I know you're very busy. This was really great that you took the time to be with us. Thank you very much. This was our 100th episode. We've done this 100 times. And thank you to our Canadian military friends out there who watch us.
Hey.
Who knew?
Thanks, man.
Hey.
Cool. All right.
Bye.
Thank you, everyone. Take care.
Thank you.